Welcome to Moms Coaching Moms. I'm Rochelle and this is Christine. And this week we are talking about learning to say what you need even when it's hard. So this is our fourth week in a series that we've been doing. The series is called Things You Didn't Even Know You Needed as a Mom. And we started with self-compassion and self-acceptance. And then we went into learning to listen and connect with yourself. And last week we talked about self-love and self-care. And this week we're rounding it off, which actually brings us around full circle to all of this again. But it's learning to say what you need even when it's hard, AKA boundaries. We just wanted to say it in a little more fancier way than boundaries. So
everybody says boundaries.
Oh, right. And what do they actually mean? Like, that was something that as we got talking, we were like, wow, there's a lot of things we could actually talk about, a lot of options. So we went through so many different ideas, and it's something actually that you can actually look forward to, that we're putting together some courses that we're doing. And this is definitely going to be one of them. Not sure exactly when this one will be coming out, but we do have some courses that we're working on to go really in depth into different topics, but specifically into ourselves within these topics. And who are we? Who do we want to be in them? What are the stories that are coming out from them of like how we are right now, and who do we want to be in that space as moms specifically? So where we got to after talking about all these things about boundaries, we got to the space of, I said, you know what? I only have so much space in my head or my heart, only so much energy. So I have to decide what I'm going to do with it, what I'm going to put into it. So a story that I heard a really long time ago has stuck with me all these years. And it was, her name is Polly Wagner. And she was telling this story that she was having this conversation with God one day, and saying, like, I have so many plates. She imagined herself this like circus entertainer that spins plates and stuff. And she was saying, like, oh, it's just so many plates. I have so many plates to spin. I'm a mom, and I'm a wife, and I'm I think she's a speaker, and I do this, and I do this, and I do, like, I run my kids, and all these things. And she's like, I have so many things that I'm like, so many plates that I'm just spinning and spinning and spinning. And I don't know if I can keep up with it all. And I don't know what I can do and all of this. And for her, she said it was like she heard God just say, okay, so which one do you want to drop? And I remember reading that and just thinking, like, whoa, okay, I have a choice. And as we talked, we said, like, I know you had talked about, like, we could put one down, we could pick it back up. Maybe there's different sizes of plates. Maybe there's, you gave the analogy of like balls, like juggling balls and stuff too. And same thing. And so, like, I know there's been different times in my life that I've just thought, I don't want to put any down right now. So then I thought, okay, well then I guess I better get good at spinning plates. And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, I could put that one down or this one. And okay, I'm going to have to put one down because I want to pick one up now. I want to pick another one up and see. So we actually looked up the definition of a boundary, and there's a couple different ones. And so one definition was shows where one thing ends and another thing begins, or a limit. And then we added to it as we talked, and it was like, really, boundaries are for us, set by us, and controlled by us. And they can be different for different people. We can have different boundaries for different people, different activities. They can even change with the same person and stuff. And so where we're going with this all is that we need to learn to recognize and acknowledge our boundaries, and then be able to communicate them.
Yeah.
And that was something that brought out what you have read and has been really key for you.
Yes, one day I am going to meet Brene Brown and say, you have single-handedly changed my life forever. The trajectory is on a completely different path. And one of the things that she has said is boundaries, clear as kind.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows kindness to ourselves and to others to be really clear what it is that our boundary is. And so that first means we need to be clear on ourselves. What is what we need? What is it? And how are we going to get that? And how does that fit into who I am in this scenario? And so once we're clear on that, then we actually have the responsibility to communicate that to the people around us. Otherwise, it isn't kind. And it's very important for us to be able to let other people know what exactly, we need. And, for me, an example is a closed door. And if I haven't explained, and how many of us as moms have a closed door and our children just think that they can just waltz right in, and if it's locked, they're banging on it as if, we've
Reaching
put
their
them in a
fingers
jail cell,
underneath.
right? Like, and so we need to actually be able to explain to them what a closed door means. And it works both ways. We don't just barge into their room either. If the door is closed, you knock first and you ask if now is a good time or whatever, and you get to set that around and what that looks like. And so then everyone is on the same page, and it's easier to have those boundaries met. And we're not even getting into people pushing them or whatever. We're just, the first step is actually getting clear with ourselves and communicating what it is that we need.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And boundaries are kind of ever moving lines. They're different, they change, and that's okay. Sometimes it's like, well, but you said this, and I can change my mind. Like, it's okay to change our mind. We're human. We need to, and that's where it comes back to sort of bringing all of our weeks full circle into being able to have compassion for ourselves, being able to know what we need and be able to speak that. And then also be able to have those boundaries or and the reason that we titled it the way we did this week, with learning to say what you need, even when it's hard, because we found, and I know, like, we're pastors' kids, both of us. And so we grew up, fairly different than most kids with our being pastors' kids. And I know for me, like, I grew up that there were no boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have boundaries. People called my dad day or night, and he didn't have a cell phone by his bed that could be on silent. It was like the one phone at the, outside the kitchen on the wall, and it rang and the whole house heard, and I don't know how many times we were like on holidays, family holidays, and either we all had to turn around and go back, or my dad would have to go back, or whatever. And it was, and I'm not saying that every time that happened, there was a boundary that was broken, because I get there's times where that's, it's also part of his job and what he's doing. However, I think a lot of times it was just, there were no boundaries. And so I grew up going like, yeah, you don't have boundaries. And because also life is all about other people. And then as soon as you become a mom, well, you have to, because it's this little person that is solely and completely dependent on you to eat and sleep and thrive. So, like, how do you have boundaries then? And then they start growing, and then they need more. And it's like this big snowball effect that just keeps going.
Yeah.
And so that's where we really wanted to talk about this. And again, it's such a huge topic, but we wanted to start the conversation about it. So if you have seen any of our videos, I think weekly talk about a Wendy assessment or people best assessment on wendy.ai. And it's a psychological assessment that looks at our internal, like, psychological needs. Amazing assessment. I mean, now we're a little biased because we just love assessments. However, being that we have done so many assessments over the years, this is definitely like one of our favorites. And
Absolutely.
I know one of the things that we said was because, like, we are very similar. And so many of the assessments were just like, it just shows us how similar we are. And we're like, yeah, we already know that. And this one has actually shown us some differences, or at least we might have similar results, but we have different stories that go with them. And that's been really cool. So we actually asked Wendy, because there's a feature, there's a let's chat feature on the website. And so we asked Wendy to find out some just about boundaries, and like what are some traits that would lend to poor boundaries and that. So this is what it got us. So first of all, poor boundaries start with a lack of self-awareness. True. Many individuals do not even know they're struggling with boundaries because they've been conditioned to ignore their own needs. Well, hello, being a mom.
Also true.
Yeah, right? Like, okay. So that's where it starts. And so that took us into the trait of agreement. And so we're going to look at that one. But there also are a couple other ones. We want to just mention them because that they are something that we're definitely going to go into when we are able to go more in depth into these topics. And what that would look like is it's going to look like what we're going to show you in a minute, going into each personal assessment and taking a look at what is the story with your trait and the number that you have. So some other traits are like compliance. If you have like a high compliance, it can naturally think allowing others to break boundaries by complying to requests is normal. We can think that. By always being compliant, you let others know that it's okay to keep breaking those boundaries. For example, if we're high in empathy, well, we feel for other people. So sometimes we can lack the boundaries. Low self-assurance, that can lend to it. High self-responsibility. I can do this. Another one is like the emotion trait where we can feel pressure to make others happy, and then, and none of this even deals with, for example, if there's past trauma.
Yeah.
And that is something that I know you and I have definitely found has really spoken very clearly in these traits as we talk, as we have the conversations. So I'm going to share my screen. See if I can do it the first time this week. Okay. This is yours, right?
Go me.
Okay. Yay. Okay. So we are looking at agreement. So there's all these different things that, if we're doing a debrief with someone, the assessment's totally free to take. And then we can do a debrief with you and go through like all these different things. But we're going to focus today on the trait of agreement right here. So the first thing that we see is the 10. Woo! 10 out of 10.
I've never been a 10 in my life.
You have a few of them here, so it's
I know.
awesome.
It's going to be like, go me.
Oh, it's amazing. So we're going to click on it, and it takes us to, okay, this is exciting. Okay, let's just log in. I thought I was logged in. Anyways, okay, agreement. So do you want to just kind of talk through for you what this means for you with boundaries and that?
Yes. So a 10 out of 10. So right away, we're so often conditioned that something is good or bad, right or wrong. So immediately when I looked at this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a 10. And then I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a 10. And then and then you start reading it and you're like, oh, okay. So I'm a 10. How is this serving me? How is it not serving me? And what is the story that got me to this place? And so for me, um, agreement meant that I was avoiding conflict. It meant that I was avoiding um, um, painful behavior, uh, abusive words, any of those kind of things. And so um, it actually did. I was able to get a lot more things done. I would. I didn't have to be the winner. I could just, you know what, whatever you want. Uh, okay, I'm easy to work with. I'm very easy to talk to. That is something that I love about myself. I can apply fairness to most things, um, and I can get attention when conviction forces some sort of input. So then, where you start looking at the downside of that, I may withhold my opinion. It inhibits debate. I actually hate debate. I want to run in the other direction. Um, a pushover. One of the things that I am told all the time is Christine is so nice. Yeah. Okay. And I can get taken advantage of. I could be easy to manipulate. Now, what's funny with that is that I can usually sniff out manipulation a mile away. However, just because I can sniff it out, it doesn't mean that I don't fall for it. And because at the end of the day, I really, 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 really wanted to be liked and to not be seen as a threat so that I could be safe. And so any of those things like may offer half-hearted, uninspiring viewpoints. Yeah, there was a huge part of that. So what did that mean when it meant coming to boundaries? I didn't have very good ones at all. And one of the things when I was looking at this, how does it serve me? How does it not? This idea of seeking harmony, it actually, in this way, it means that you're going to give yourself up entirely so that you can be in agreement with someone. And what I've learned through, this emotional intelligence and the healing of that and understanding your stories and how it serves me and how it's not, is that true harmony is that each person has a part. And if you know anything about music, harmony is a beautiful thing done right. And you can just get lost in melody. Maybe it's one of the reasons why I love Backstreet so much, because Backstreet Boys know how to harmonize. Oh, they're so good.
That doesn't age us at all.
No, not at all. What are you talking about? So with that though, it means that you're very confident in your part and you allow other people to be confident in theirs. And for me, that is true harmony. And yes, that is where my heart is. I want you to be confident in your role and I will be confident in mine, and they might be different. And brought together in harmony, true harmony, not the doormat harmony, but the true harmony.
Yeah.
That just makes my heart sing. And so that is where boundaries come in. It is really important. I'm not going to do your part. You're not going to do my part, but we're both going to do our parts to the best of our ability. And so I had no clue how to make that happen. And hence where emotional intelligence comes in and learning to be really clear so that you can be really kind and you can really get that harmony going. That's what's important to me.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's just so the whole thing that we realize every time that we take a look at this and every time we talk and everything is that like we need to find out the stories, the numbers. Yes. I mean, there's things that they say here. However, they don't tell the story that we're telling ourselves.
That's right.
And that's the important part, is because there's times where that this has served you very well.
Absolutely, it has. Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
times where it hasn't served you. And so that's the whole thing of like having that dialogue, having that communication, that to find out, like, and just to even ask ourselves, like, in a situation, in a moment, going, okay, how is this serving me? Is this not serving me? How
Yeah.
is it serving me? How is it not serving me? And we've just found that really important and powerful to
Yeah.
do that.
Straight up. Yeah.
Okay, so if I look at mine, so with agreement, you'll actually see two numbers here. And so what this shows is the 8, that it's green, is that means that it's like my natural score. It's saying that's who I naturally am. And the 4 being in white is saying that there's something going on in my life that is causing this discrepancy, this split in this trait. You'll see I have a couple of them, and I don't know if I've seen anyone that doesn't have at least one. So again, going back to like what you were saying, it's not a good or bad thing. It's okay, let's find out the story of what it is. And so if I go back to the agreement part here, and this is where for me, I'm actually exploring this right now to find out. So 8 would be fairly close to your 10.
Oh
And
yeah, baby.
woo, so 8, if I go down here, it is more of a priority to get along with others than to offer an opposing point of view or defend a viewpoint. Will generally yield in the face of disagreement and will retreat from conflict. Believes the way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. And it's interesting when I looked at this, seeing that like, okay, 8 is my natural score, and then 4. So if I go down to 4, it says, does not hesitate to state disagreements, will stake out position even if there is conflict anticipated. Prevailing with viewpoint is a priority, but not to the degree other viewpoints are dismissed or without consideration. So for me, this is something I'm actually still exploring with this, because in my mind, thinking back, I would actually say I was probably more naturally a 4, like a 3-4 growing up. And then there definitely was trauma in my life, high school and then college, like university, and the last number of years, definitely a lot of trauma that I've dealt with. And so I think I might change my mind on this as I delve deeper into it. But I think that's where the natural, like the 8 is actually my natural now, because of the trauma that became my natural go-to of like basically the compliance of having to comply, like withholding opinion seen as a pushover, because I have it like when I look back to like my child and teen years, I'm like, I don't think anyone would actually, I don't think I would even describe myself as this, or anyone else would. I think it would be the other side. And so, but trauma definitely plays a role in all of this. And I know it has for you as well.
Yeah.
And that's where for us that with this is that, again, it just shows how important it is to find out our stories.
Well, and I think that you and I keep saying this all the time, like, what is the story? What is the story? What is the story? And I find that this story is so not only interesting and intriguing, empowering, so empowering, because all of a sudden we're like, whoa, maybe we didn't even realize that was the story. Maybe we weren't ever allowed to tell the story. Maybe we were dying to tell it, and now that we're saying it, we're like, whoa, that's the story. There's so many different ways that really at the end we're like, tell us your story. We want to know your story.
Yeah.
we want to come alongside you in your story. And the greatest thing about stories is they can be rewritten. And it not that can rewrite the past, but we now get a chance to write something different moving forward. And how
Mm-hmm.
empowering is that when this isn't, you can look at this psychological personality assessment sort of in a diagnostic way. Okay, this is where it is right now. And then we can dialogically delve into it and be like, okay, so what is serving me right now? And how
Mm-hmm.
did this serve me before? How can it serve me moving forward? And we can be constantly evolving that. And how amazing and truly such a gift that we can give that to ourselves and then to each other as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's incredible. And that's, I mean, that's what we found the most sort of exciting part of it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's not always exciting because there's some hard stuff that we've dealt with, like that we've had to, I guess in sometimes people call it the shadow work, like, those kind of things. And that can be hard to deal with. Yet through dialogue, I mean, it just makes such a difference in being able to look at things and go, oh, that's why I do things like that. That's
Yeah.
why I think like that. Oh, okay. And then I love the question, how is this serving me? Or how is this
Yeah.
not serving me? Is this serving me right now?
Yeah.
Because if it's there, it was serving you at some point at least.
Yeah.
And maybe it still is, maybe it's not. And so then we get to have the conversation, which is, okay, so now what? And we
Exactly.
get to decide that. And that's the biggest thing with the boundaries that we want to come back to is boundaries are all about us. My boundaries are all about me. Your boundaries are all about you. Everyone gets to decide their own boundaries. We don't have to justify them. Nothing. They just are. And we get to decide. We get to decide when they change. And I think it's something that just is not taught enough. And it does need to be taught. And it starts from little. It starts from very little. I mean, we could give so many examples, kids that are playing and like, oh, just share your toys. Like, no, you have to share your toys. Why do they have to share their toys? Like, okay, you have to go give so-and-so a hug. Why do they have to go give them a hug? There's boundaries,
Stop
and
crying, or I'll give you something to
oh
cry
my
about.
goodness. Yes. Yes.
Go to your room until you can behave better.
Yeah. Like there's so many things. I mean, we were talking before and I said there were times that I did just say, can you just give that toy to your sibling? Because and sometimes that was my boundary of I was done. I did not want to, I could not deal with, say, screaming anymore at that point.
Yeah.
My boundary was done. And I was like, okay, I just need it quiet right now. I just need some peace right now. And other times I could go, okay, let's have this conversation. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
And both of those are okay. And I think that's something that, we want to have these conversations. We want to have these conversations and have these talks and be able to really look and go, what do I need? And sometimes it takes the conversations to get those things started. Because I know for me, talking about boundaries, I mean, okay, of course we all have some boundaries, but I had never in my life thought about boundaries before.
Yeah.
Ever. Was never taught boundaries, never thought about them.
Well, and because I was taught that, you do as you're told. And so it was someone else's boundaries, but that I didn't have boundaries because I just had to do what someone else told me to do. And I was in premarital counseling the first time that I learned that I was allowed to say no.
Wow.
Like, okay,
I never even learned that
what?
then.
So all of a sudden, like, I'm allowed to say no to, listen to the sirens outside my door. I'm allowed to say no in my marriage. Like, what? Like that's a thing. And so, the fact that, our kids got to grow up and knowing that at least they could say no. And yet it's not that simple, right? And that's why we said there's so many different things that we can say about boundaries. And so,
yeah. And that's where it just goes to the dialogue.
yeah,
It needs to be a
absolutely.
dialogue, and that's what we love to do. It starts like on Wednesday nights. We have our NJAM conversations, and that's where we start having these conversations. What are boundaries to you? What do they look like? Where have they shown up? Where are they serving you? And that. And so this coming Wednesday night, the 29th, we're going to be having this specific conversation. And then, every Wednesday we're doing the conversations though. And you can look back on our YouTube. We have like all the other conversations that we've had so far. And, but this Wednesday, we're going to be specifically talking about this week and going into that a bit. And then, like I had mentioned before too, that we're building out some courses to be able to really dive deep into some of these and these will be for someone who recognizes that they want to change and is willing to do something about it. Like, I need to change. I want to do something about it. I mean, that's where both of us got to. That's where this whole thing of Moms Coaching Moms came from and out of, was like, oh my goodness, we need to make a change, and we want to make a change. And now we just want to help other moms do that. So, and then do you want to talk to about the Amanda Todd Legacy Foundation? We're so excited to be supported by Carol and Foundation.
Totally. So the Amanda Todd Legacy Foundation is sponsoring women for their first month for their Wendy membership to join us with Moms Coaching Moms. And we're just so excited for that. Carol Todd does a lot in schools and organizations talking about connection and internet safety and sexual exploitation and bullying, and what can we do as parents, as communities, as schools to really show care, compassion, concern, connection. And all of that came out of a trauma and tragedy in her life. And so you can look up her story. We'll provide all the links for that. And their online auction is coming up at the beginning of October. There's, I don't remember the last count, 13,000 different items that you can go on and look in that. And that really just does support the whole, her whole purpose and what they're doing out there. And so we're just are truly grateful and blessed to be a part of her journey and for her supporting ours. And so we'll provide the links and stuff for you to take a look at her online auction as well. And yeah, we're just excited to have you come and join us.
Yeah, and we'll have all our other links as well to take the free assessment, to join us Wednesday nights. All our social media, everything will be down below of the video or in the description, wherever it will be, wherever you're watching this. And just come and find us. And if you want a certain topic talked about or more information on it, let us know, because we'll, every week we're doing these right now, and we're just going to keep covering different topics. And, if you know a mom, please pass this on to her. And that, that's who we want to talk to. That's who we want to reach. It's who we want to have the conversations with. So anyways, we're going to sign off for today, and we will be back next week with our next topic for Moms Coaching Moms.